حي على الفلاح.
There is 12 matters that they brought up in regards to Uthman. The first is that he put as governors his close family and his cousins. At the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu, there were 5 people who were from his family who were governors. And they were not all at the same time, at separate or different times. The people that Uthman radiallahu anhu used as governors, first of all, Muawiyah was already there. Muawiyah was already used by Umar. So Uthman just continued in the using of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. And then we look at the rest of these governors. And we look at their biographies. What did they do? Every single governor that Uthman radiallahu anhu appointed was a good governor. And Uthman radiallahu anhu, he only appointed those who were able to take that position. And he trusted them and he used them. There was only one of his family members or one of the governors who was accused of drinking alcohol. Ibn Abi Sarh. In the narration in Bukhari that he was lashed. And Uthman radiallahu anhu, he says that if it was something that you have done, then this is a kaffara. And he relieved him from being a governor. Even though the ulama, they say that the actual action of drinking, it was only because of 2 witnesses who witnessed, and these 2 witnesses who witnessed against him were from the followers of Abdullah bin Saba. That's why Uthman, he told him, if it was true what had happened, then this is a kaffara for you. This will take away that sin, inshallah. If you haven't, then this is a elevation for you. But the witnesses have come forward, I cannot stop a punishment from happening, as long as the witnesses have come forward. This is from the perspective of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Every single governor that he put was a good governor. He was righteous except for this one, and the accusation is doubtful, is questionable. This usually is not an argument. It doesn't matter if he's from the family or not. What is important to us is how was their performance. And when you look on history, all of their performance was good, especially Muawiyah. The second point that they brought up is that he got rid of Abu Dharr al-Ghifari radiallahu anhu, and he exiled him to a place called Al-Rabdha. The books of history, they came and they said that Muawiyah, he went off and he swore at Abu Dharr and he kicked him out of Asham and he sent him back to Uthman. And Uthman radiallahu anhu, he kicked him out of Medina and he sent him to Al-Rabdha, which is an area on the outskirts of Medina. This is what the books of history, they say. They lie against Uthman. The issue that happened is that there was a dispute between, or there was a difference of opinion between Abu Dharr and between Muawiyah. Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu was a person who, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, when Abu Dharr came at the Battle of Tabuk by himself and he was running, or he followed them by himself, he says that Abu Dharr is a man who will live by himself. He will die by himself and he will be sent on the day of judgment by himself. He was a man who was what? Who was by himself. He had his own opinion in regards to wealth. And this was the opinion, or this was the dispute happened between him and Muawiyah. A verse in the Quran is that the ones who hide, or the ones who save the gold and silver and do not give it away in charity, then these are the ones who will be punished by Allah. This verse, Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, he said, this is a verse that was revealed by Ahl al-Kitab, the Christians and the Jews. They used to save the money, or used to put the money aside and not give it for the sake of Allah. So Abu Dharr said that this is even for us. Anything that is left over after you have paid your zakat, you are only allowed to have with you which is enough. You're not allowed to have anything on the side. This was the opinion of Abu Dharr. And he started to spread this opinion. He started to tell the people, you're not allowed to have any money. Only what you're allowed to spend on yourself, everything else you have to give for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because this was a time in which the wealth was coming in. The lands were being opened, the wealth was coming in to the Muslim lands. And Abu Dharr was telling everyone to what? Everything that they have got, to give it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the wrong opinion. The opinion of Muawiyah is that this is a revelation which was revealed in Ahl al-Kitab. And this was the dispute. So Muawiyah, he sends a letter to Uthman telling Uthman, please, Abu Dharr, he's starting to make some trouble within the people with this opinion of his. So Abu Dharr, being the obedient follower of Uthman, he went to Uthman. And Uthman, he gave him the option. You either stay in Medina or you can live wherever you want. So the choice of Abu Dharr leaving Medina was what? Was his own choice. He was not forced to leave Medina. They mentioned that he burnt the Masahif. That he got rid of the Masahif and he gathered everyone on one Mushaf. This is something which is, or he's given the rewards for it. Because he only continued the work of Abu Bakr and Umar. And he continued the job that they had started, and he did the best job that he could do. And the only reason he did this is because Hudhayfa radiallahu anhu, Hudhayfa ibn al-Yaman, he came from the opened lands, and he said that the people started what? The people started doing takfir upon each other because of the different narrations or the different qira'at, the different recitations of the Quran. People started doing takfir on each other. This person will hear a different qira'ah than this person, and they'll start to tell each other that you are a disbeliever, no, you are a disbeliever. So the job that Uthman did was actually a merit to him. It was something that was good for him. The gathering of the Quran and making it into one book, this opinion was not only his opinion by himself, he went and he did it by himself. But this opinion was given by him, and he took it to the big companions, and the Shura at that time, they accepted this opinion and they went forward with it. So it's not something that Uthman, he did on his own. And when we go into these issues, you'll find that these are things that are for Uthman, not against him. But when the people, subhanallah, they bring the good and they turn it into bad, and then you have people who follow. They mention that he hit Ibn Mas'ud and he hit Ammar bin Yasir. These are things that the Shia and the Khawarij, they made up against Uthman radiallahu anhu. Another thing they brought out, they said, Zada fil hima. Al-hima is the land which is used for the cattle of as-sadaqah, for the cattle of the charity. There's a certain land which the Prophet ﷺ, he used for this cattle, which is for them. It's a waqf for them. They said that Uthman, he made it bigger for himself. Uthman radiallahu anhu, he extended that land because the cattle of sadaqah increased. The camels of sadaqah increased. And it was no longer sufficient enough to hold, which was there. So Uthman, he increased it. So what did they say? They said he increased it for his own camels, for his own sheep, for his own benefit. So Uthman radiallahu anhu, he said, before my time, grazing land was allocated for the camels that were given in zakat. And the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr and Umar, they all allocated land for grazing. I had to add to it because the number of camels given in zakat had increased. So automatically you need more land. He said, I did not prevent the livestock of the poor Muslims from grazing on that land, and I never allocated it for my own livestock. He never used it for himself. When I was appointed as Khalifa, I was one of the richest of the Muslims in camels and sheep, but I have spent it all and I have no livestock at all except 2 camels, which I keep for Hajj. Is that not so? The Sahaba said, by Allah, yes. Everything else was given for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another issue they bring up is that he continued or he completed the prayers when he was in traveling. And this is a minor issue. But they brought it out that if it is something which is big. The issue of continuing the prayer while in traveling, while he was in Hajj, this is an issue of fiqh. To him, Mecca was his house because he had family in Mecca. He had wife and children in Mecca. So when he went to Mecca, Mecca is his home. It's not a travel place for him. So he continued his prayer, amongst other things that they mentioned. But at the end of the day, this is a fiqh issue. And it is not to an extent where we need to ask him to take or to resign because you continued your prayer or because you did the 4 rak'at instead of doing the 2 rak'at of safar. This is a fiqh opinion. And it's a sunnah. It's not fard. It's sunnah to what? To shorten the prayers. It's not fard. And even according to some of the fuqaha, it's more beloved to complete the prayers than to shorten the prayers. So it's a fiqh issue. Another thing that they brought upon Uthman, or they mentioned about him, is that he added a second adhan to the Friday prayer. The Friday prayer, originally at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, at the time of Abu Bakr, at the time of Umar, it was 1 adhan for Jum'ah. Uthman radiallahu anhu, he added a second adhan. Why did he do that? This was the question. Why are you going against the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And you realize why Uthman radiallahu anhu, he did the second adhan. Because of the Muslim lands growing and the busyness of the lands of the Islam, the second adhan was needed to warn the people, to tell the people that Salatul Jum'ah is going to start. Prepare yourself. Because as soon the second adhan is called, no one is allowed to what? To do any work or anything. The work that you do is considered haram. The wealth that you make from that money is considered haram. For the males, of course. The females are different. The females are allowed to. Salatul Jum'ah is fard upon who? Upon the males, not upon the females. Uthman radiallahu anhu, with his ijtihad, he said that we should bring, or we should make another adhan 10-15 minutes before the actual adhan, to let the people know that Salatul Jum'ah is going to start. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him for that. And Uthman, when he took this decision and he did this ijtihad, he did it at a time in which the companions were in Medina. The likes of Abdullah ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Umar, Abu Hurairah, Aisha radiallahu anha. These great companions, Talha wa Zubayr, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. These great companions were in Medina at that time, and they did not say that what you have done is wrong, but rather they continued and they worked with him on this issue. And this is a sunnah. Prophet ﷺ, he says, follow my sunnah and the sunnah of who? Of the rightfully guided khulafa. Uthman radiallahu anhu is from these rightfully guided khulafa. The 3 main issues that they brought up about Uthman was that he wasn't there at the Battle of Badr, didn't fight, or he ran away from the Battle of Uhud, and that he wasn't there in Bay'at al-Ridwan, the bay'ah that took place under the tree in Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, when Prophet ﷺ was going to do Umrah and he was stopped by Quraysh. At that time they took a bay'ah, they took allegiance to a bay'ah to the Prophet ﷺ until death. Uthman wasn't there. These 3 issues. An Egyptian man, he came to Medina and he saw a group of men sitting. So he asked, who are these men? They said that they are from Quraysh. So he asked, وَمِنِ الشَّيْخ? Who's the one who's in the front of the majlis? Yani, who's the one who's sitting in front of them? They said, Abdullah ibn Umar. So he walks up to Abdullah ibn Umar and he says that I want to ask you about something, about a matter. He says, yes. He says, do you witness that Uthman did not, or Uthman ran away from the Battle of Uhud? Abdullah ibn Umar, he says, yes. He says, do you witness that Uthman did not go to the Battle of Badr? He says, yes. He says, do you witness that Uthman did not witness the Bay'ah of Ridwan? Abdullah ibn Umar, he says, yes. So this man, he says, Allahu Akbar, that the truth has come out. So Abdullah ibn Umar, he tells him, let me give you the understanding of it. Let me explain. He goes, as for the Battle of Badr, was the first battle that the Muslims had. Uthman was not there. We know that he wasn't there. So why don't you ask for the reason? The Battle of Badr, Uthman radiallahu anhu was with who? Was taking care of his wife. Who is who? Who is the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And he done this by the order of who? By the order of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. When he was going out, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he told him to stay and to take care of your wife, who is his daughter, who is the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam's daughter. And you have the same ajr as the one who is fighting. And you even have a part of the booty of war, as if you have fought at that time. From that sickness, she actually died. The Battle of Uhud, they said that he ran away at the Battle of Uhud. A big number of the companions at the Battle of Uhud, they as well ran away. After Khalid ibn Walid, before entering into Islam, after he came from behind and he attacked the Muslims from behind, most of the Muslims, they ran. Why? Because the word came out that Prophet ﷺ had died. And then he says, but as well Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He has mentioned that He has forgiven them. As for Bay'atul Ridwan, why wasn't Uthman there? Simple, because Uthman was in what? Was in Mecca. He was the one whom the Prophet ﷺ he sent to speak with the people of Mecca in regards to doing Umrah. And the Prophet ﷺ he said, if there was anyone who was more honorable to the people of Mecca, who was more praised to the people of Mecca than Uthman, then I would have sent him. But Uthman, he was the most honored, most praised, and the best of people to go and to talk to Quraysh. That's the only reason he sent him. What was the reason for Bay'at al-Ridwan? The reason for this was that the word came out that they had killed Uthman. The Prophet ﷺ, he called the companions, he told them, we are going to take a bay'ah on death. And after completing the men, and he even took the bay'ah of the women. And this is where the hadith is mentioned that he did not shake their hands. The Prophet ﷺ, he took his hand and he put it in his other hand and he said, this is for who? This bay'ah is for Uthman. So it's even a bigger merit for Uthman. The Prophet ﷺ, he took the bay'ah for Uthman himself. And they mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ, he exiled Al-Hakam, the father of Marwan ibn Al-Hakam, one of the close family of Uthman. The Prophet ﷺ exiled him for a certain action that he did. Uthman radiallahu anhu, he let him return. All these issues that they brought up, Uthman radiallahu anhu was free from all of them. Even if there was mistakes in issues which are what? Which are issues of fiqh. In issues that are not a place or a time in which they could call him out to leave his position. But verily it was a plan to start to destroy Islam.